Hey guys, Chuck Simpson here. Welcome again to another show of East to West. Today I'm all by myself. I'm looking forward to my buddy Jamie being with me here in the next couple weeks. But today I want to just take a few minutes to talk about just a great cause that I'm a part of, that is very well known here in the community. It's called See You at Home. They're just an organization that reaches out to those that are less fortunate. They try to provide them housing and just whatever need that they have. They go above and beyond and scour the community to try to find resources that will meet that need and help raise them up out of the mess that they're in. And on February 21st, they're doing what's called a One Winter Night, and it's basically just a night where we come together to raise awareness about homelessness. People from all walks of life will spend a night on the street. I myself am participating in that. Would love for you to check out their webpage, get more information about it, pray for them, support them in prayer, and just lift them up, because they're just such a great organization. You know, when God said go out and feed the needy and go out and take care of those who are less fortunate, they are walking it above and beyond. So today, what I really want to touch base on is just the least of these in our society. You know, what do they think about themselves? What do they think about them circumstances that we're in? You know, I just watched one of my all-time favorite great movies. In fact, I was just, talking to a couple of guys that were filming before I got on, and about what was some of the greatest movies that they've seen, and some of the greatest quotes of a movie that have ever been seen. And one of my favorite movies is The Grapes of Wrath, and I just watched it 2 nights ago. My wife was off doing something, so I thought, what better way than to spend an evening watching The Grapes of Wrath, because the story is so powerful. It's about the humanity of humanity. It's so powerful when people are left with nothing, and how they're treated, and how people even quoted in the movie, they said these people are less than human. They're not even humans, because humans wouldn't live this way. But they didn't choose to live that way. Circumstances caused them to lose everything that they had. And they even began to lose hope because of the way that they were treated and the way that they were abused and just shuffled on. Nobody wanted to deal with them. Nobody wanted to help them, and nobody wanted to take care of them. And one of the greatest 5 minutes ending of a movie ever is when Ma is giving her speech about how she's not going to be scared no more, how she's not going to let this world beat her down no more, how her and her family are going to stick together and they're going to make it, and they don't care what anybody thinks about them. They don't care what anybody does to them. They're a family, and they're going to stay together because they know that they can rise up out of the circumstances. They didn't let the circumstances in Oklahoma derail them from living a life that was full of abundance. Yes, were they still going to have struggles? Absolutely. Were there still going to be people that were going to belittle them and put them down? Absolutely. But the spirit of humanity inside them was that spirit of encouragement, that spirit of determination, that spirit of rising above and being set apart and being strong. And that's the way we should be. We should help people that are in those situations that feel hopeless and feel without any merit, or even feel like they're not even human. Because how many times do we look at people who are homeless or struggling or whatever and say, man, why do they choose to live that way? Why do they choose to live that way? Well, it's not a choice. I guarantee you nobody in the world chooses to live homeless. Nobody chooses to live with no food in their stomach. Nobody chooses to live with no hope in their hearts. Nobody chooses that. Just a great thing that I think God really spoke to me over this was, when Jesus went to heal somebody, he didn't say, hold on, let's talk about your past. Let's make sure all your wrongs are corrected before you're right enough to be healed. He never did that. He healed in the moment, and he healed for the future. Jesus is a God of the moment and the future. He doesn't care about the past. He doesn't care where you've been or what you've gone through. He does, yes, but what he cares about the most is getting you from the present here now into the future that he has called you to. and to the life that he has called you to. He's not called anybody to live homelessly. He's not called anybody to starve. He's not called anybody to be without. He's called people to live a life and to live it what? Life abundantly. And it clearly says that in the Bible, that he calls us to live life abundantly and not to have, struggles and just turmoils in life. And when we do have that, he wants us to turn to him. And he wants us who believe in him to turn to those who are struggling and say, you know what? I don't care about how you got where you're at. Too many times in society we say, oh, well, if they would just get a job. Or if this wouldn't have happened, or if they wouldn't have done that, or if this wouldn't have happened, then they wouldn't be where they are. Yes, there are consequences to actions, absolutely. But what we need to focus on is how do we get them now at this point that we're interacting with them to the point where they can start having a life and having more abundantly and living out the calling that God has it for. Because if we're always focused in the past, then we're never ever going to get them to the future. We got to just keep moving on and moving on. In John 4, verse 9 through 11, it clearly says, in this the love of God was made manifest among us, all of us, that God sent his only Son into the world so that we might live through him. Not him through us, through him. In this love, not that we have loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the propitiation for our sins. If God so loved us, we also must love one another. And that doesn't come with parentheses, one another. We get to choose who the one another is. Jesus says we are to love one another. We spend so many time on class warfare. We spend so many time. I heard a great quote today. It's just like we as Christians and as churches, we whittle down our stick, if you will say, and the control to where we're so like this that we're shaking off people that could be great for the kingdom. That could be great for God, but we're shaking them off because they don't look like us and they don't talk like us and they don't walk like us. So if they're not like us, we shake them off. But God embraced everybody. God embraced everybody. He even sat down and talked to people who basically called him a liar, called him the devil. People in the Bible were like, oh, this is just the devil. And God said, well, how can I be the devil? How can the devil cast out demons? The devil wouldn't do that. The devil wouldn't cast out his own demons. But he accepted them and he loved them and he just kept walking in love for them, and to the point to where he shed tears. He looked over Jerusalem and just shed tears because he was so sad because, he knew in their hearts that they were going to turn from him, and he was just so in love with them. James 2:14 and 16 says, what good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed, lacking in daily food, and one of them says, go in peace, be warmed and be filled, without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So God is calling us to an action Christianity. He's not calling us to a speech Christianity. He's calling us to be in action. He's calling us to say, oh, you're hungry? Well, let's go get something to eat. If you're cold, well, let's go find you a blanket. Let's find something to do. And that's what I love so much about See You at Home, is because they scour, they look, they are continually searching out ways and resources to help, the homeless, and to help reach out to people that are struggling, and just walk alongside of them, not lead them, walk alongside of them and say, you know what, we're going to go through this together, we're going to do it together, but we're going to get it done, and I'm not going to give up on you. I'm not going to let you fail. No matter how many times you may fall back, I'm going to be there to pick you up. And that's the Spirit of God, and that's what the Spirit of God in us should be. We should be that guy that's saying, with the commercial. It reminds me of the old commercial, with I don't remember what it was, but it was a button that you could push, and it would let somebody know that you needed medical help. And it was a poor old lady, and she would say, "Help! I've fallen and I can't get up." How many people are saying that in the world, and as Christians, we're just walking right by them, just walking right by them. We're not helping them up. It's like the Samaritan, the guy who got beat on the side of the road. You know, how many times did he call out to the people that walked by and said, can you help me? Can you help me up? And none of them did it except for the Samaritan. And he stopped and helped him. And not only did he help him get up, but he helped him survive and he helped him get through. And so he walked out abundantly over and over again. You know, Matthew 25:35, which is one of my favorite verses because it's the way that Christianity for me should look like. We should be so surprised that God says stuff to us like, when did we do these things? You know, just because it should just become so ingrained in our walk that helping people should just become natural, should just become a normal part of life. It shouldn't be something that is a struggle. It shouldn't be something that is, you know, just something that we work at. It should be something that we live out. You know, Matthew 25:35 through 40 is just really one of my favorite passages in the whole Bible because Jesus is talking about, you know, different sets of people, and he says, for I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. Now Jesus is using himself in the first person here, which is really, really cool because he's referring people and situations to him. He's saying, I am those situations. I am those people. I was a stranger and you welcomed me in. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick and in prison or visit you? And this is my favorite, one of my all-time favorite verses in the Bible. And this is what I try to live my life by every day. It says, and the king will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers and sisters, you did it also to me. So when you see somebody struggling, and when you see somebody out there who's homeless or in need or just whatever, you know, think of that verse. Think of what that really is in that moment. Is it just really somebody that is an annoyance to you? Is that just somebody that, you know, you feel is not deserving of anything better than the situation they're in because of whatever struggles they've gone through in life? We don't know what they've gone through. You know, we don't know what upbringing they had or what situation that they've gone through, but we assume that because someone is homeless, that it's because of a fault. And sometimes it's not a fault. Sometimes it's just a reaction. Sometimes something happens. Somebody loses a job. You know, a family has a catastrophic medical situation. You know, we don't know. And that's not, God doesn't call us to worry about the past. God calls us to focus on the here and now, the situation that they're in, and how we can make the here and the future better for them. And that's what God really calls us to do. And when we, you know, and when we get to that point that it just becomes so natural for us as Christians, as a nation, as a world, you know, these principles here aren't just necessarily Christian. I mean, they could just be human values, you know, human. I mean, I watched a video one time of this poor guy in New York. He had a seizure and passed out and was near death, and people just walked by him, didn't care. They didn't care. They just walked right by him, and it took like 45 minutes for somebody to finally stop and see if the guy was okay. 45 minutes, and guess what? He was dead. He died. 45 minutes, the people walked by him and didn't even bother to check on him. They just thought he was just probably thought he was some homeless guy just sleeping on the streets. You know, just didn't even take the time to look. You know, I once heard a story, and I probably have shared this before, but I'm going to share it again. I'm going to share a couple stories that I've shared before. But there was a reporter that had gone to Russia to do a story on the orphanages there, and she had come to this one particular orphanage, and the director was showing her around, and they were going through the rooms, and all the little children were either in a bed or, you know, in a cradle or whatever, and she was going through it, and she stopped. She says, I just have a question. She says, it's just so eerily quiet in here. I don't understand why it's so so quiet? Why is there no crying? Why is there no laughter? Why is there, and the director says, you know, a child instinctively, when it realizes that nobody's coming to hold it when it's crying or to take care of it, will instinctively stop crying. And so it just was very profound to me, because it just makes me feel like, I feel like the world is not crying anymore, because I feel like the world doesn't think that there's any hope anymore. That you know, you look on the news, you see all the terrible shootings that are going on and all the situations that are going on, and people are like, I don't understand why that's going on, and there's no hope, and nothing's going to change, and what's going on, and you know, and then you know, we see that in the faces of people who are, we think, you know, the homeless. We think, you know, there's no hope for them. They can't change. They can't better their lives, and you know, and I think of Charlie Gardner. You know, he was homeless, had a little son to take care of, was a genius, beautiful mind. Perseverance got him through. Perseverance to know that there is much better than the bottom of the barrel. And now he's a multi-billionaire because he didn't give up. He didn't get to the point and let the world say, well, that's where you belong. You know, you made some bad choices, so that's where you belong. You deserve to be there because that's what you've chosen to do. That's not the way it was. And he had guys that believed in him, the guys that saw the potential in him. When was the last time we stopped and looked at somebody and said, man, you've got great potential. You know, there's something in you that is great, because we all have greatness in all of us. All of us have greatness in us. We can be great teachers, or we can be great, you know, politicians, or we can be great whatever, but there's greatness inside of all of us. And just because we're stuck in situations that the world thinks you know, is not worthy, doesn't mean that there's still not greatness in you. Charlie Gardner knew that, and he walked in it. Gandhi knew that. People looked at him and thought, what's this guy? He's got nothing. Got nothing. But he had everything, because he had determination. He had that spirit of humanity inside of him. He had the greatness inside of him to say, I don't need the worldly possessions. I don't need all that. I can walk, and I can be tall, and I can be strong because of the spirit that is inside of all of that greatness. He touched that greatness, and that's what we need to do when we see people struggling. We need to see not the struggle, but we need to see the greatness inside of them that can be unleashed, that can be let out, that can be restored, that can be rebuilt. We drive by all these old broken down houses, and all we do is just look on the outside, but and think, oh, this thing's junk. Just tear it down and start over. But how many times has an old house been beautifully restored? I mean, I like looking at old, 200-year-old houses that have been completely restored, because it's old, but yet the beauty of it is that it's been made new. And so we can take people from old and make them brand new, but we've got to walk it out. We've got to seek it. We've got to want it. We can't just walk by somebody and say, tough luck on you, too bad for you. We've got to be able to pull our resources together and say, I'm going to help you out no matter what. And I'm going to end with my Joe story, and I know you guys have heard it, but I just love this story so much that if somebody new is watching, I just want you to be encouraged by this. Gentleman's walking down the street and he falls in a hole. It's a pretty deep hole. He tries to climb out, can't get it. The sides are crumbly or whatever. So a doctor walks by and he says, hey, doc, it's me, Joe, down here in the hole. Can you help me out? Doctor writes him a prescription and throws it in the hole. A few minutes later, a preacher comes by and he says, hey, preacher, it's Joe down here in the hole. Can you help me out? And the preacher shouts out a prayer down to him and keeps on walking. Well, his friend Mike walks by, and he says, hey, and he's out of desperation, he calls up and he says, hey, Mike, it's your friend Joe. Can you help me out here? I've fallen in this hole. Well, Mike jumps in the hole with him, and Joe's like, well, that's just great. Now we're both in the hole. But Mike says, yeah, but I've been down here before, and I know the way out. So that's the way we need to be with people. That's the way we need to be when people are down in that hole, that we've been in or the struggles that we've been in, we need to be able to jump down in there and be with them and say, look, I'm going to help you out of this no matter what it takes. We're going to walk side by side. We're going to be strong. We're going to stand together. We're going to walk. We're going to be a unity. We're going to be a team in this. And when that happens, great things can change. I'm telling you, I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in my family's life. I've seen it in my co-workers' life. I've seen it in the lives of so many strangers when they realize that somebody's walking with them and they're a team and somebody cares about them, then they care about themselves, and then they say, you know what, I can do better. There is better for me out there, and I don't have to stay in this situation. I don't have to be beaten down, and I can stay strong and walk the mile. So with that, I'm going to close. I just wanted to bring that today, and also just remember, you know, check out See You at Home, check their website out, see what they're all about. They're a great organization. Like I said, if you just support them prayerfully, or if you volunteer or whatever you want to do, just check it out. They're just walking the mile, and we'll close with that. And once again, I just thank you for tuning in, and we'll just see you again on East to West.